Playbook live show here on the Better Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm social channels. James, we are here previewing just a 5-game main slate here on Thursday evening.
Yeah, an interesting slate. A lot has shifted from the last time you and I spoke. We have multiple different pitchers than we had on the podcast last night.
Right.
We have official word that Julio Teheran is, in fact, the Milwaukee Brewers starting pitcher today. Logan Webb has shifted to Saturday start for San Francisco. Kyle Hendricks is making his season debut, moving Jameson Taillon back to Saturday start. The Giants are electing to go full bullpen game instead of just a traditional starter. They're keeping Alexander as their opener. Now Jacob Junis expected to fill the void left by Logan Webb. So a lot has changed despite it just being 5 games. Hopefully nothing else changes. But baseball creeping into the NBA change territory where things can never just be what they are scheduled to be.
Right.
At least Julio Teheran is back in our lives, and that's the most important thing here.
Not on tonight's slate to be usable as a starter. Not that we would use Julio Teheran as a starter here tonight anyways. James, why don't we take a look at Vegas here? Again, just 5 games tonight, so this one could be a little bit quicker. More time to build lineups maybe at the end of the show. But anything noticeable when it comes to our Vegas odds and game spreads tonight?
Yeah, so per the course this week with Oakland, Seattle playing 4 straight days, Seattle opening as a minus 215 favorite that is now ballooned to minus 250 over on DraftKings Sportsbook. We've seen Seattle pretty much dominate this series this week. The Giants opened at minus 119 is now at minus 130. So a little movement in their favor. Surprising to see a move even with Logan Webb being moved off this game and Julio Teheran being moved in. The Mets and Cubs are deadlock, minus 110 both ways. Same thing for Philadelphia and Atlanta, both minus 110. And then the Yankees minus 135 favorites at home against Baltimore without cover boy Cedric Mullins in the lineup tonight. They are leading off our friend of the program, Adam Frazier, this evening. Adam Frazier has been very good to us over the last couple days, mentioning his name. But then in terms of the over-unders, it is 9 runs implied in Baltimore, New York. Slight lean to the under on DraftKings Sportsbook, minus 120 there. 9.5 has been bet up, half a run in Philly, Atlanta. Minus 120 on the under there as well. New York Mets and Chicago Cubs with win expected to be blowing in. Despite that, the run total, depending on where you're looking, DraftKings has it at 8. I see BetMGM at 8.5. So depending on where you're looking, you get different odds. But the over 8 runs is expected there, minus 120 at DraftKings Sportsbook. That's actually up. It opened at 7.5. I bet if anyone just tuning in and maybe watch the Better Baseball or the Better the betting show that was just on from 4 to 5 with me and Dan Servadidio, I bet Milwaukee, San Francisco, over 9 runs implied. I like that because there's 2 pitchers in the bullpen that we're going to get to that's not very good. But that is the second highest total on the board. And then Seattle, Oakland, slate low, 7 runs implied. And that's largely due to the ineptitude of the Oakland offense, but opened at 8 and now down to 7, worth noting. So those are our 5 totals for today's slate.
All righty. Let's get into the slate here. I did the playbook today. You can find that over at fantasyalarm.com. If you're not yet a member of the All Pro package there, fantasyalarm.com/all-pro, promo code MLB50, NFL50, whatever you want there. We'll save you 50% off the first 6 months. Using that, you also get a 7-day free trial included, and that's $19.98 a month for the first 6 months there. Gives you access to all of our premium content and gets you in our premium Discord there. So playbook went out this afternoon, and we're looking at this pitching here on a smaller slate. We talk about it, not always the best of options, and they even took away Logan Webb from us here today, going a full bullpen game. Julio Teheran on the slate, not even in the player pool over on DraftKings. FanDuel, they actually are locking at 6:35 tonight. They're including that White Sox game there. So White Sox Tigers are on that slate. So at least if you're playing on FanDuel tonight, Lucas Giolito is a potential option for you on that slate. But on DraftKings, as we're looking at it, Logan Gilbert and Aaron Nola are your top two priced starting pitchers here. Logan Gilbert, mega chalk tonight. Yeah, 70, 80% probably. As we saw Luis Castillo in the similar matchup a few slates ago, absolutely just dominating rostership here. That's going to be Logan Gilbert tonight going up against Oakland. And then you have Aaron Nola. We talked about it last night. You pointed out some of the stats for Atlanta against right-handed pitching. Not necessarily the greatest. They did go and put some runs on Tony Gonsolin here. Aaron Nola has some pretty rough-looking BVP against some of these Atlanta hitters, but smaller slate. If you're looking for a guy at upsides, he just had 10 strikeouts. So those are your top two pitchers. We know a lot of people are going Gilbert. Would you be comfortable pivoting to Nola tonight?
I'm okay going both because neither guy is expensive. Like Logan Gilbert, 9,900, having his best year in terms of strikeouts, and we know Oakland strikes out more than anyone else. So, like Logan Gilbert, am I comfortable pivoting off of him? No. But like Aaron Nola is your best option if you are coming off 10 strikeouts. He's had a much better May. When you look at his strikeout output, he had a 21% strikeout rate in April, 24% in May, obviously aided by the 10 strikeouts his last time out. But now it's 6+ strikeouts in 3 of his last 5 games. Atlanta, 23.5% strikeout rate is top 10 in baseball against right-handed pitching. And I did a deeper dive over the last 2 weeks against right-handed pitching, sub 700 OPS for Atlanta against righties. And I know they did, score 3 runs off Tony Gonsolin, but still 3 runs is not anything crazy. And the BVP that does worry me is obviously Ronald Acuna has massive numbers against him, but the other one is Austin Riley. And I know in theory, that's just you see a guy good, you see a guy well and you just hit him. But Austin Riley's just not been good against right-handed pitching at all this year. And I'm not saying that's not going to turn around and, he's not going to continue to be or he's not going to revert back to the guy he was. But 109 ISO, 291 WOBA against right-handed pitching, 24% strikeout rate, 50% ground ball rate. Those are all terrible numbers. So maybe past Austin Riley would worry me more against Aaron Nola here, but present Austin Riley. And it's funny because I took Austin Nola over 5.5 strikeouts in the Better Show, and Dan Servideo took Austin Riley over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. And I said, well, both things can coexist. If Austin Riley hits a home run off Nola, I'm fine with it as long as he gets the strikeouts. I'm just not sure he's going to, because I think Nola has been better of late. The numbers suggesting he's coming around a little bit in May. So I'm okay pivoting off of Gilbert to Nola. I'm also okay just using both of them so you don't have to even dip your toes in this next tier of options we have.
Yeah, that next tier, as you mentioned, we have Clark Schmidt at home against the Baltimore Orioles here. Cal Gibson on the road against the New York Yankees, and Kyle Hendricks making his season debut at home against the New York Mets there. I'll keep it there because I want to go a little bit further in on the guy below him. Of that grouping, does anybody have any interest for you?
Maybe Schmidt, knowing Mullins is out of the lineup and they're leading Adam Frazier off, but we've seen this song and dance with Adam Frazier a couple times now. He's literally bit us 2 slates in a row. One in a bad way against Garrett Cole, one in the good way because you and I both faded Chalk Nestor last night, and the Adam Frazier, home run was nice off of Nestor. It went 310 feet, John. It was the shortest home run that left the stadium of the year. Clark Schmidt, the strikeouts have been really good for him. 5+ in 7 of his last 9 starts. I don't know if I really want to get there, though. He's going to be pretty popular. He obviously has a good offense backing him. So, could be in line for a win. Kyle Hendricks making his debut. There was a lot of pitches in his rehab start. His first 2 rehab starts were bad. His last couple were good, and there was 82 pitches in the last one. There's wind again blowing in Wrigley. Very low game total for, this game. So I could be persuaded to get to Kyle Hendricks. We also know death taxes Kyle Hendricks at home throughout his whole career. He has been so good at Wrigley Field.
Not a big strikeout guy, but someone that we know at times definitely can go on these runs where he just limits damage. Just ground ball. And, you'll look up and he'll have 6 shutout, 3 Ks, and that's good enough, honestly, like this to get it done. So,
but why don't you get to your guy? Like Schmidt and Hendricks for me would be in play if you're not spinning up. But why don't you get to your next guy? I know JP Sears is definitely on your radar.
yeah, listen, I wrote him up in the playbook here today, and we talked extensively, I think, about this spot for him on the podcast this morning. And I am not opposed on a smaller slate to playing both pitchers in the same matchup.
Right.
You want to just look at JP Sears' most recent game as like the perfect example of what could happen, right? He goes 6 innings, he gives up 2 earned, he strikes out 7, doesn't get the win. Okay, but he got 19 fantasy points out of him.
Right.
If Logan Gilbert goes out there and gets the win tonight, and this is a lower scoring game where Sears goes out there and gives you exactly that type of quality outing with the strikeouts, and you're getting 19 points from your SP2, and then Logan Gilbert goes out there as the chalk monster and gets the win tonight, or even he doesn't even really need to get the win, honestly, because he's going to be so highly rostered. Sears could easily be the second highest scoring pitcher on tonight's slate going up against the chalk starting pitcher. So I am fine actually stacking the pitchers in this game because I don't think either of these offenses are all that great. Seattle, big strikeout numbers against left-handed pitching. A lot of their offensive numbers against left-handed pitching are not very good. The one thing they do is hit home runs. The one problem Sears has had this year is giving up home runs, but this is a pitcher's park in Seattle generally. So if those strikeout numbers play up tonight, and he can, and I'm not saying he's got to throw a shutout. No. He doesn't have to. No. If he goes and gives up a home run and he gives up 2 runs over 6, you're living with 17, 18 fantasy points. I did this exact same play the other day, obviously a little bit cheaper, when I wrote up Patrick Corbin. I was like, listen, Patrick Corbin's not going to go throw 9 shutout. But if he goes 6, 3, and 4, he gets you 16 fantasy points. We're cooking. He did. He gave you almost that exact line and gave you 16 fantasy points as an SP2 on a smaller slate, and you're winning. So, that's it for me. I'm playing JP Sears. I'm playing him with Gibson, with Gilbert, and I'm playing him in another lineup with Nola. But for me, my SP2 tonight is JP Sears.
Shout out to Sears, the store, as well. I always found Sears was superior to Macy's. Maybe I'm alone there. But Sears over Macy's. They were both in my hometown mall.
Yeah.
One end was Sears and one was Macy's. And I always found maybe it was just when I was a kid, I was just having more fun.
I was going to say,
running around.
The Sears around here have all closed, but Macy's still exists. So
maybe. Well, I also like Pepsi over Coke. So I'm not always wired. I'm not wired the same way.
Do you remember the old Pepsi challenges they used to have set up where they would line taste test and you pick which one was better? Were you old enough for those? I'm a little bit older than you, so maybe that was just for your time. But there's a whole marketing thing with Pepsi where they would do these blind taste tests on Pepsi. There's a whole commercial. They would set up in the mall and you taste oh, which one's better? And you're like, oh, this cup. And it's oh, that's Pepsi. You like Pepsi better than Coke. So I went up to the Pepsi booth one time and did this, and I picked Coke right in their face. So just a little story there on the Pepsi challenge there. Failed it. They looked at me in disgust, and I just walked away. So because I too consider myself a Pepsi drinker, but in that instance, the Coke just tasted a little bit better. I don't know. Maybe they gave me a flat product. I got no idea. We got our guy here, Brendan. He wants to be part of the Fantasy Alarm team. Brendan, do you want to go ahead? You can send us a message, man. You can send it over to our support team. Send us your resume, and we can review it and maybe get the ball rolling. We're always open to candidates. We got our guy Mark Pitts in chat as well. I know he's been out there throwing some plays up on his Twitter, giving some DFS and PrizePicks plays out there. He's looking at Kelenic, J-Rod, and Teoscar. Could they introduce Payne into Sears' life tonight? They could, in theory, but for most of this season, the Seattle Mariners have not been a very good offense. And we know that because we're always playing Seattle, it feels like. And they just rarely come through for us, even though they should be. Kelenic, obviously, this year against left-handed pitching has been dynamite. Historically, Teoscar very good against lefties. Even this year, pretty good against lefties. J-Rod's been a mess across the board, but as James pointed out, either yesterday or the day before that, a lot of numbers indicating that there could be some positive regression in his future. So yes, Mark, 100% could be a night where JP Sears goes out there and, the real Seattle Mariners stand up and they just launch all these home runs. But they have like a 26% strikeout rate or something like that so far against lefties. So Sears has a K per 9 over 9. He's got, I think it was like 25 or 26% strikeout rate on the year. So on a smaller slate, it's kind of just where I'm looking to go for upside. As James pointed out, Kyle Hendricks at home with the wind blowing in certainly could be in play. The Mets against lefties is how we usually want to play them. Up against a right-handed pitcher here tonight. Not a big strikeout pitcher. That's a worry for me, but the fact the wind is blowing in, maybe that keeps some of those balls in that ballpark tonight. So Hendricks would obviously be the pivot. They're just, to me, at least way more upside because of those strikeouts with JP Sears. So the 4 pitchers, if I was putting forward in a mixer tonight, it's Gilbert, it's Nola, it's Sears, and it's Hendricks. I'm not playing anybody else.
I pretty much have the same sentiments. I might dabble with a Clark Schmidt share if you're playing like multiple entries. Maybe he's going to be a little popular. There's win equity behind him. I agree. Sears is very interesting because it could go obviously one of two ways. You mentioned there's a lot of power allowed and there's a lot of power hit with the Seattle lineup, especially versus lefties.
Yeah.
Like Teoscar hit one last night, 340 ISO against lefties again this year. Jared Kelenic, 348 ISO against lefties. And JP Sears, 276 ISO allowed. So, like, there's obviously, like...
Walden did come in that game, though, and, like, mowed them down for a while.
True.
So...
yes, until he didn't.
Until he didn't. I messaged you, and I was like, I didn't realize Mark Mulder was on the mound tonight for the Oakland A's here. Well, we were watching our Seattle team just, get mowed down there. But yeah, obviously he was hot till he wasn't, and then he got lit up big time. Yep. I agree, but that's Waldichuk, right? Like Sears'
that is Waldichuk.
Profile is a little bit better than. Sure. But Waldichuk had 7 Ks in 2 2/3.
Yes, he did.
Like that's what I'm talking about. Like that strikeout rate against lefties is ridiculous for Seattle. Yep. So if Sears can, because Sears is a better strikeout pitcher than Waldichuk is. If Sears can miss bats and avoid the 8 hits and 5 earned, because basically after I messaged you that, the floodgates opened up. Yep. It could be in a better spot for sure.
On the catcher?
Yeah, on the catcher. Let's break it down again. Smaller slate. So only a handful of guys here. Rutschman's your top price catcher, $4,900. Real Muto against Dodd hitting 6 at $4,700. Certainly some interesting, but as I wrote in the playbook, everybody's going to be playing the Giants. I think you're going to want to test Julio Teheran tonight. Sabal is right there in the middle. It was $3,600, something like that, $3,400. I just don't see how you don't go there if you're not spending up for like a Rutschman tonight.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Julio Teheran has spent the last 3 seasons pitching in
literally independently, right? Like,
yep. And I mean, it's just been, a fall from grace, unfortunately for him, because he was a guy who
you got to work your way back. Kudos to him for working his way back. I don't know how. I'm not anticipating this to be a good welcome back to the MLB, though.
No, because we've talked about this, like the Giants against righty. I mean, the Giants have given pitchers fits lately, like good pitchers. Like Joe Ryan barely got through 5 innings yesterday. I know he pitched well and like they didn't do much, but like constant traffic against him. Bailey Ober the other day, 4 runs in the first inning. He only lasted 5 innings. Like the Giants against right-handed pitching has been a thing all year. I agree on the Sable. John, let me tell you something. I took my home run prop today, plus 750 Adley Rutschman to go yard. He is profiled better as a power hitter from the left side. And the thing we've said about Clark Schmidt all year long has been lefties just destroy him. Like he cannot get lefties out. That's why
Cedric Mullins was the cover of our show today. But
that's why Cedric Mullins was the cover of our show. And Adam Frazier's going to have to take his place and all his production at like a $3,000 price.
Makes it a lot easier to play Adley Rutschman tonight. That's what that does.
It does. It sure does. 4 lefties against Clark Schmidt this year. 442 WOBA, 287 ISO. I mean, dude, like 41% hard hit rate. Like the numbers just can. I love Adley Rutschman here. And I'm not afraid to put a plus 7.5 on a home run. 4,900 is obviously expensive for a catcher, and when you have Blake Sable 3,400 and obviously like a smash spot, hitting in a pretty good spot in the lineup, it's hard to
And
go Rutschman.
you have a
You could also
ballpark improvement for the Giants tonight as well. They're playing in Milwaukee.
right in it, yeah, in a, but like you could in theory play them both. Because you could play Sable in the outfield. I don't know if you want to do that because I think we're gonna get to some other Giants outfielders that we like more. And I don't know if that would feels like limiting to your lineup. I'd rather just play other guys of the Giants at 3,400. But you could, in theory, play them both.
Yeah, 100%. Mark asking, can Kyle Gibson navigate the top of this Yankees lineup here tonight? Yeah, once again, we talked about this a lot. Like once you get past like Bader, for the most part, Yankees lineup is kind of gross. Yeah. Even Bader, has cooled off significantly from that ridiculous start that he got off with the Yankees here. The problem is like it doesn't even matter if he navigates the end of the second half of that lineup. Goliver hit 2 homers the other day. Judge homered. Like Rizzo has been a monster.
Yep.
So I don't think so. I'll say that Gibson is another guy that has really struggled this year against lefties while being pretty good against righties. Yep. Which is why like Rizzo is in the play. Like every playbook I do, I don't even like erase Rizzo's name anymore when I do a playbook. I just copy the one I did before, just leave his name in there, rinse and repeat. He's just been a monster all season long. Yep. And there aren't a ton of good lefties in the Yankees lineup, really at all. So sure, like it's possible that they get through here. Yeah, mid-price catcher play for you.
We do have one.
Yeah,
we do have one right here. Ben Rupert. Yeah, I mean, he's not a good offensive player. But his one start this year.
I'm pretty sure Mark played on that night too. It was mid-price and he came through like the double and the RBI. It was great.
Salute to you, Matt. Or salute to you, Mark. One half of the power play boys.
So listen. I think that Gibson is probably not going to be rostered tonight. So on a small slate, and this is what I said in the write-up as well, just not to give the playbook away for free. Play 3 lineups tonight. Play 2 lineups tonight. Make one that is going to be just contrarian because there's going to be so much high ownership on Gilbert tonight that if something happens where Gilbert doesn't have a good game or the Giants get stifled by Julio Teheran tonight, right? Like have one contrarian lineup out there and put yourself in an advantage on these smaller slates. Now, again, if you faded Frambar, or if you faded Luis Castillo the last couple times they faced Oakland, you lost big, right? Like that did not work out well for you. But there are days where the chalk fails, and when on a slate like this, where you can get ahead of 70% of the field if that goes wrong tonight, sure, I could see a path to playing Gilbert or Schmidt, like you mentioned, Gibson rather, or Schmidt tonight, just to be a little contrarian for sure.
To your point. You mentioned the Logan Gilbert ownership. You said 70 to 80. That was spot on. It's currently 70, which is 2.5x anybody else on tonight's. Kyle Gibson, the 3rd lowest rostered pitcher at 5%. Him and Kyle Hendricks dead even at 5%.
Yeah. What's the money line right now on Oakland tonight? It's got to be what, plus 350 something like that?
Big number. Yeah, it was.
You get higher maybe.
Let's go back. My plus 210 over on DraftKings Sportsbook for Oakland.
I figured it'd be higher than 210. You're only getting 2 to 1 on Oakland. That's it.
That's some respect to JP Sears.
Definitely could be there.
Also, Logan Gilbert for all the strikeouts that he's gained this year, because he's obviously having an incredible year in terms of strikeouts, like 31% strikeout rates, highest. He's given up runs. Like I looked at DraftKings earlier. They put his earned runs at 1.5. He's allowed over 1.5 earned runs in like all but one start this year. So it's not like he's been untouchable. Oakland just doesn't hit righties for a lick.
Yeah, no, I hear you. All right, what other catches were we looking at here? You mentioned Ben Rovert. I had Sabal, Rutschman, Real Muto. Anybody else for you on this slate?
Do we have a Seattle starting catcher yet? I'm trying to see if we have a Seattle lineup out. I don't see one yet. Because we do have one. We have both Seattle catchers
Okay.
in the lineup. Raleigh and Murphy. And I know you're a big Tom Murphy guy. I know you're playing Sears, but if you're playing a 3 max, would you look either direction towards Raleigh or towards Tom Murphy?
Yeah, I would consider Murphy. I think just because he's cheaper. Uh,
2400?
yeah, I think you could go if you're not going Sears, right? Like, why not? Why not give that a
Yep.
chance? The Giants also have both of their catchers starting tonight
Catchers, yep.
as well. Patrick Bailey is starting. Bailey has been way better against lefties and righties. Again, very super small sample size. He is 1 for 7 versus righties. He's 2 for 6 against lefties. So again, not like a huge group there, but again, we don't know what is left in Tehran here. So
Yeah.
$2,100 pure punt hitting ninth could lead to a wraparound play if you're going Bailey, Lamonte Wade tonight or something like that. It could be a spot. Not like the best. Murphy's probably a better option, but if you needed the $300 for the straight min price catcher, Bailey's there.
To your so his 2023 minor league splits, John,
Sure.
Patrick Bailey, as a lefty swinger, he has been way better, at least at the AAA level. 4 of his 5 home runs, 14 of his 19 RBIs, 287 average compared to 208 against left-handed pitching, 447 slug. So he has been better as a lefty this year.
Okay.
So take that for what it's worth. 2100 hitting ninth.
Sure. All right, let's go to first base. We got Anthony Rizzo, as I mentioned, was my favorite first baseman of the group. He's $4,900. Are you playing
Hey, look at
anybody
those
around?
home splits. Look at those home splits.
No, they're
He loves Yankee Stadium, dude.
376, 11, 12, 663 slug. It's wild. And then Gibson's numbers against lefties are not good. So for me, Rizzo was the plug and play. I played his fantasy point prop over on PrizePicks tonight as well. Very low for whatever reason for like what his recent everything about Rizzo would suggest that he would have one of the higher fantasy score props on the board. It's only 7. He only needs to score 7 fantasy points tonight to hit the over over on PrizePicks. Usually we look at those lines, they're like 8, 8.5, 9. I don't understand why it's only 7. That's like, a hit, a run, an RBI, like in your home, basically. A home run, obviously you smash it. So I took the over tonight on Anthony Rizzo fantasy point props over on PrizePicks, and then he's my plug and play first baseman tonight.
I agree with every sentiment you just said, and then you look around like the rest of the position. Yeah, you can get to Olsen against Nola. It's not like Nola has been shut down, but like for me, I'm targeting Aaron Nola, so I'm not necessarily in on Alonso or Olsen. Alonso has wind against him, and sure, he can hit it out of any ballpark, but
big time power.
I'm not necessarily in 5,200 in a very low game total. Rowdy's hitting 7th, which I think is interesting because you're only going to get Alexander once.
Yeah.
So why are you hitting him 7th? They're batting Darren Ruff 2nd, by the way. I find that incredibly interesting. Just again, like it's a lefty once. Yeah. Like, why are we hitting this?
Jacob Junis, by the way, too, 5 home runs allowed in 26 innings this year. So like, pretty decent. I guess I'll take some of that back. He allowed 4 homers in 1 game. So
it's been good at pretty much the remainder of his.
Yeah, everything else he's been good, but he got lit up in 1 game, 4 homers allowed. So
I would say probably the next 2 names we're gonna get to are probably Alec Boehm and Lamonte Wade. Those are right. Those are probably the next 2 after Rizzo.
I'm not really in on Philadelphia as much. Maybe I'm off on that. I don't play a lot of Philadelphia. I just don't get there. Boehm is okay. Their power hitters are from the left side usually. Trey Turner, maybe yesterday is the spark that woke him up. Real Muto's fine. I just don't find myself getting to much Philly tonight.
So I am, and I was looking at Dylan Dodd's splits this year when he was in AAA, and we have a 42 inning sample. Again, not like a ton of it, but dude, he is getting shelled at AAA.
Mhm.
Righties hit 331, 947 OPS, 7 home runs. Lefties 294, 3 home runs, over 1,000 OPS. That was at the
Yeah.
AAA level. Um, Not a like
The just
highly
doesn't
coveted.
impress me at all. I guess that's my other problem too. Like he's just not a
I would yes. I would say he's a little better against lefties. Like 204 ISO against
yeah.
lefties is pretty good.
Can we just get Reese
I'm not.
Hoskins back and just like let me play Reese?
I know. Please, I know. I'll give him my leg. I'll give Reese my leg.
Yeah.
Like I'm not disagreeing with the Bohm like not impressing because it's like one of those. You look at those numbers, it's 204 ISO, but then just a 312 WOBA. He doesn't.
He's got
It's
a
pretty
460
much
slug,
power.
like that's fine, right? Like
Yeah,
I'd rather play Wade,
38.
honestly, and then I'd rather give. I know the wind's going in, but like Mervis 2,300.
Okay.
You want to talk about some numbers? Go look at Carrasco, right? Carrasco's
Yeah, it's been
been
horrible.
getting lit
Horrible.
up, and lefties against Carrasco or righties are doing a lot of the damage too. But we know Mervis has big power from the left side of the plate,
Yep.
so punt play $2,300 for Mervis here tonight. I kind of like that too. If I was going value, it's Wade and Mervis for me.
Okay. Any Darren Ruff
No, I don't think so.
hitting second against Alexander and Junis. And so I half the reason I took the over 9 runs in that game was because obviously Julio Teheran's pitching. No disrespect to the legend, but San Francisco going full bullpen intrigues me because they have the third worst bullpen in ERA in the league.
Sure.
So if they're gonna go, because if you go back to Junis, right,
Yeah.
he hasn't really been extended of late. So how many innings is he even gonna give us here?
Right.
Right? Like
You get
2?
Alexander for 2, Junis for 3, then like after
I don't even
that.
think Alexander has been like Alexander's only extended into the second inning like a handful of times.
Sure.
Is he even gonna get, like he has not completed 2 innings yet this year. I am interested in Milwaukee really because how bad the Giants bullpen has been. And like there's just gonna be a lot of guys pitching.
Yeah.
Like if they're going Junis Alexander start, what is that going to span you? 3 innings, maybe 4 innings.
Mm-hmm.
So that's only reason I asked for Ruff and like why I'm really interested in Milwaukee as a
Yeah, I guess if you're making a stack, sure, but like I don't find myself playing Darren Ruff at $2,300 over the other first baseman on the
sure,
board, right? So like
sure.
it would have to be a 3 max where I'm dedicating myself to a Milwaukee stack.
Milwaukee stack, right?
Um, because there's a lot of value here today, right? Like one of the reasons
Okay,
why I think you can pay up for it as much as you are is one, all of San Francisco is free if you're not
yep.
playing Estrada today, and there are other good values on the board. So yeah, I don't. I mean, if Ruff homers and I lose to Darren Ruff homer tonight, then that's just fine. I will.
Yeah, it's too bad.
I accept. Like that's just what happened to me. Let's go to second base here. I mentioned Estrada is $5,300. Morel was the cover of my playbook. He's the first guy I wrote up today. I get that the wind is blowing up there, but Morel also is another guy that just has like light
Insane power.
power. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't even matter. And Carlos Carrasco this year, I mentioned that he has been just abysmal in general. His numbers this year against righties are god awful. And Morel, I had to do a double take. He has a 977 slugging against righties. We usually think like a 977 OPS is very good. He has that in slugging. So
Right.
again, super small sample size. The man it's only come up and just mashed home runs, but like also that's just the facts of what he's doing right now. So you look at Carrasco against righties this year, 325 average, 442 WOBA, 625 slug. I don't know how a ball doesn't get deposited tonight by Morel around one of his 3 strikeouts.
That sounds like another day in the park for Christopher
That's what I'm
Morel.
saying, right? Like
I mean, I feel like you're better off betting like over 1.5 strikeouts for
they weren't
Christopher
even
Morel
off
than
it.
anything
But to
else.
that
I
point,
find it funny.
Carlos Carrasco this year has a 12.8% strikeout rate. So what happens first? The strikeout from
Right.
Morel, right? Like
Right.
because Carrasco doesn't strike out many. He doesn't last in games long enough usually to strike out
No.
many. His home run to fly ball rate this year is 16.7%. He's allowing almost 2 homers per 9. Like everything is going up against Carlos Carrasco here for righties, and Cubs are one of my favorite stacks on the board just because of that. I mean, you got him. You have some other righty power in this lineup today. I like Morel a ton.
Like Nico Horner coming off a home run yesterday.
Yeah, listen, one of his 4 this year.
What? 3?
Well, I mean, he'll hit 4.
Oh, true. Yes. Ooh, nice. What else? What else are we doing a second here, Johnny?
I mean, I kind of just stopped and moved on. I mean, obviously, Gleiber's leading off at 47.
Right, coming off double done.
Yeah, you mentioned the Dodd number, so I'm sure you're in on Stott today at 44 leading off.
Probably, yeah. He's been good.
And
lately.
then, I mean, listen, I can only joke for so long before Adam Frazier just continues to shut me up. I feel like actually people should start paying attention to this. When I make fun of a player, play him, because I did that against JB Crawford. He homered. I did it against Adam Frazier. He doubled 2 RBI doubled off of Garrett Cole, and now he's 3-run home run last night.
What are the chances those 2 are the ones you make fun of, and those are the 2 guys?
Like seriously, it happens, right? So he's leading off. Lefties against Schmidt have been the play.
Yep.
He's
been good.
He's been good. And he fits like the stacks that you want, right? Like,
yeah. Yes.
Adley's right there at a high price, and you only have to pay $2,800 for the leadoff guy. So, yep, he's there. Owen Miller is going for an MVP award, I think. I mean, another home run for Owen Miller last night. He's got 3 homers, 2 stolen bases, 395, 1147. Like when you're talking about playing Darren Ruff, like I'd rather play Owen Miller, right? Like a guy that is at least giving us this production and it gets a lefty spot. So, like, yes, and you can play him at second and third tonight as well. Like I'm in on that for as a one-off play at the price for sure. I don't really have much for value. I don't know if you like Caballero tonight or not.
Always,
but I'm playing Sears, so I'm not in on that.
He's on base 3 times again, and if he gets on base, we know his stolen base pedigree at the minor league level. So
it is funny he hasn't tried to steal since that 3 stolen base game, but
sure. There was also I think he hit one of his hit last night was with someone on first base, and then his walk was with someone on first base, because I know I think he was either the first or second run scored in that 5-run inning that Seattle had. So I think he just had traffic in front of him that didn't allow him to go.
That makes sense.
But that's it. Caballero would. I mean, but also for the same price or $100 more, Owen Miller and Adam Frazier both leading off compared to Caballero officially hitting 9th tonight.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And I mean, just Miller leading off too. It just improved his value there as well. So, shortstop, third base rather here.
Well, shout out to Jeremy, by the way, John. Thanks for the heads up on Baltimore last night. That's what Jeremy gave us a shout out in the YouTube comments over there. Shout out to you, Jeremy, for coming through and listening.
Listen, Mountcastle, right? Like we were always in on the Mountcastle versus lefties there, so it came through nicely for us there. A little slow to start, but came through there at the end, big time for us. Which is fine. It doesn't matter if it happens right away, as long as it happens. Then we're good with it. Third base, you have Austin Riley up there. You mentioned some of the BVP numbers against Nola, $4,800, but you also like Nola tonight. Eugenio Suarez, again, we talk about it historically, great against lefties. But Gunnar Henderson, man, $3,900.
Yep.
More signs of life, lefty side of the plate. I like Henderson tonight. If I'm playing, there's a couple of third basemen that I'm in on. Henderson is one. Schmidt is the other, though. I hate where he's hitting in the lineup tonight, hitting
Yeah.
8th. And then Owen Miller leading off, $2,700. Like those are the three that I was keying in on here today.
Would you throw JD Davis in that mix as well, or is the slow, like he's obviously slowed down, but we've talked about it all year. A guy who's historically hit lefties hitting righties really well this
Well,
year.
that's what bothers. That's where I worry a little bit. He's historically been a guy that hits lefties really well, and then for whatever reason, the entire Giants team just got off to the plate and just was mashing righties.
Right.
But now Davis is starting to trail down a little bit, so it is the unknown of Julio Teheran makes me want to play the cleanup hitter. So probably there, I would have some interest in JD Davis, but I haven't in the lineups that I've played around with tonight. I haven't had him in there yet.
Okay. It's fair. I would throw him into that mix of guys that I like. And I know Brian Anderson faces a lefty first, and that's not the best, but like he's also been really good lately in
Right.
terms of power too. Home runs, 3 of his last 10, 2 of his last 5, and he mostly going to face righties. 3,400 hitting 5th. I thought that was an interesting spot in the
Yep.
Brewers lineup.
100%. And like I said, I like Schmidt. Wish he was hitting in a better part of the lineup, but he does sort of then have that connector to the bottom of the lineup. Obviously, the catcher Bailey's hitting 9th, but Schmidt, you don't need to play Bailey. Then Lamonte Wade and Estrada are right there after them, so could connect that. Any other third baseman for you here?
I don't think so. Not in Mundo Sosa. Like if you're targeting Kyle Hendricks, you could obviously play Brett Beatty 2,800,
Sure.
but he's slowed down. Probably not.
Okay. Shortstop up the top, you have Trey Turner again, homered yesterday. The very clear and obvious top guy here. Another position that kind of falls off quick though.
Yep, it sure does.
So is there another option for you in this spot here?
Yeah, I mean, I would go back to Adames,
Okay.
and I don't know if you've caught my trend, but I am in on the Brewers quite
You're
a
just
bit.
hoping he at some point faces a righty. Is that what we're doing?
Well, yeah, I mean, like he is obviously going to face Alexander, and that's maybe just chalk that up as an L. Like we're one at bat behind already facing Alexander, but
Yeah.
he hits righties well. He's home. San Francisco's bullpen has been bottom 3 in the league in terms of earned run average, so it's a 9-run total. I bet the over. I think that this game is a great game environment for Milwaukee and San Francisco for that matter. Obviously, San Francisco is going to be the chalkiest offense on the slate. It's San Fran, it's Philly, it's everybody else. Pretty much is how it's like shaking out to be. I'm also okay sometimes when like you look at a game environment with a 9 total and you're like, all right, that's a good total. I'm gonna just play the other side because more people are playing. Like everyone's on the Giants, and the Giants are obviously a phenomenal play. I'm okay just game stack. This is like the best game stack on the board. Like you could just game stack this and move on. But I like Adames, especially with the power at home. So that's probably Volpe hitting 6th is okay. He continues to just be meh. But there's probably nothing else. Like you could play Caballero here if you wanted to punt the position.
Yeah, I agree with you there. You could play Caballero if you're punting. And to that point, I mentioned I like Sears tonight, but I also said like I'm not expecting a complete game shutout here tonight. So like you could play Caballero and he can get on, steal a base, and get a run scored, and that's okay.
Right.
It's all about what you on a smaller slate. If you can just kind of maximize scoring across the board, he is super cheap. He'll definitely fit into some lineups here for sure there. Why don't we move on over to the next position here? We're always looking at the top price outfielders. Talk to me, man. Is it as simple as just going back to Acuna Judge, or do you have someone else on your radar here?
I mean, it's in theory probably that simple. Because you can never go wrong playing Raul Acuna. Although he did blank, there was a 0 next to his name, which I don't think has happened many times this year. 2, 3.
I was gonna say I can't imagine. Yeah, I can't imagine he's giving you nothing for
3 times. 3 times this year he has not scored a fantasy point, which is ludicrous. Because he's played
another one with like really good BVP numbers too.
Yep. He is very scary. Judge is in a great spot, although lefties have been better against Kyle Gibson, as you alluded to. Aaron Judge, uh, I mean, just casual 405, just the casual 1659 OPS over his last 10 with, just 8 home runs in his last
Yeah,
10 games. Christopher Morel, like, Judge is taken after Christopher Morel here. So I think both those guys are interesting. The more I looked at Dylan Dodd's numbers, the more I liked lefties. So I'm okay getting to Bryce Harper. I'm unsure if the power has been impacted by the Tommy John and like
okay,
by the elbow. I think it could be because we've only had 2 home runs in 19 games. We've seen this before though, Bryce, where he's just like slow out of the gates in power and then he just goes nuts.
sure,
And Schwarber has been an absolute zero lately. As I mean, 103 is last day.
yeah,
He's literally just hit a home run or done nothing else. His 3 for 29 his last 10 games, John. All 3 home runs. So like you could play either of those guys, I think, in a GPP if you're stacking Phillies. But they do rank behind Acuna and Judge for me still. Same
yeah.
thing can be said about the guys around them and J Rod and Kelnick as
Yep, I agree with you there for sure. Moving on down again, we mentioned Morel already, as you mentioned there. Castellanos gets the lefty spot at $4,500 against Dodd. One of the Phillies I certainly would consider there. Ian Happ is interesting because I mentioned all those ridiculous numbers for righties against Carrasco. Happ is a switch hitter, but his better side is against right-handed pitching. So something comes of that, right? Either
well.
Carrasco just sucks and Happ hitting third tonight on his right side split just demolishes Carrasco, or Carrasco is able to navigate Happ because he's hitting from the left side.
Right.
What do you think is more likely here tonight?
I mean, the way that Carrasco's pitched, I think it's more likely that Happ hits
Yeah,
him. And I know it is the righties that have given him problems, but I'm not confident that he's going to navigate the reverse split for much. I mean, I don't know if how long we're going to see Carrasco pitching
true.
for the Mets,
That's true.
So
That's true.
um Hap and Saya and Morel could be a very interesting stack. Now, if you're doing that, you want to play Morel at second because you
Yeah.
don't want to just like use 3 outfield spots for one team, unless
Mhm.
you absolutely had to. But yeah, I think getting to any one of those guys are a great place.
Yep, I'm in there with you for sure. We talked about Teoscar potentially up against Sears earlier. You can go any of the San Francisco guys. Again, we keep going on.
Yep,
Discrepancy's $3,800 here. Conforto is one of our favorite plays of the day.
yep,
He's at
sure is.
$3,100. You mentioned Seiya already. Austin Hayes is actually hitting righties better than lefties this year. He's there. Bader's hitting cleanup. So a pretty strong spot here. And then, of course, even though Logan Gilbert's on the mound, Estory Ruiz has to be mentioned every
Dude,
show
dude.
because he is going to steal a base. He didn't even get a hit yesterday. He reached on what, like a fielder's
He
choice?
was hit. No, he was hit by
He
a
got
pitch.
hit by a pitch, right? Got hit by a pitch and then stole. So, like, if this man was on first base, he's going to second. So, I like Estory at 36 here.
Um, I don't like. There's no like. I think Oakland probably realized how fast he was, obviously, but I don't think there's any way they thought this was going to be what Story Reeves was going to be like at this point in his career. Like a 280 hitter with a 340 OBP that just is going to actually break the MLB record for stolen bases.
Right. He's
Like,
Ricky Henderson, man.
he's Ricky. Yeah,
On the right team, you know?
yeah, on the right. Of those guys you mentioned, though, Conforto's my favorite. My favorite
Yeah.
of all.
Yep.
Of all.
Agreed. I mean, Conforto, again, wrote him up in the playbook today 325, 1024, 677. Sorry, 675 slug the last 10 games for him. 4 homers during that stretch. And then, listen, if Julio Teheran shuts down the Giants tonight, then we're all just going to look like idiots anyway. So, we'll lose with the field,
Right.
So
Right.
that's fine. I will tip my cap to Julio Teheran for the throwback performance. Good on you, sir. Under 3K, what are your targets here? Anybody standing out to you?
Haniger in the lineup just because you mentioned like that he's in the lineup against Julio Teheran, right? Like that's just what that comes down to. Kaufman, if you are in on the Cubs hitting fifth, he's kind of been good
Mm-hmm.
3 straight
Yeah.
games with at least 8 hitting fifth, like that feels outrageous because it is, but like maybe they're just riding a hot hand, hitting him fifth. If you want to play Willie Calhoun, he's also hitting fifth for the Yankees. We've talked about it a bunch. Lefties are what gives Kyle Henderson fits. Joey Weimer, 2,100 hitting eighth, but like he's kind of been a zero outside of a random home run when we played everyone else in the Brewers lineup.
Right.
Um, that's it. Like it's really there's enough value in the infield. Like
Yeah.
Owen Miller being 2,700 and Adam Frazier 2,800 both leading off provides you with
You can
all that you
literally
need.
play Frazier, Miller, Caballero all under
Yep.
$3,000.
Yep. And Lamonte Wade 34 at first. Like you don't need
Right.
to, and then just get all your expensive exposure in the outfield.
Yep. Or pay up for pitcher. So
Or
right,
pay up for pitching.
also a way to go about it. So all right, James, let's build a lineup. Let's do this dance here. Again, 5 games on the slate tonight. We know the mega chalk.
Yep.
Logan Gilbert. Do we want to build a lineup with Logan Gilbert, or do we want to build a contrarian lineup here? And contrarian basically just in pitching. So, what are your feelings here?
I mean, I think given the value that we have, I like getting Gilbert and Nola. I just think that gives you the highest ceiling.
All right, let's do it.
That gives you the highest ceiling and probably the best floor, like the safest floor as well.
Sure.
I think both those things coexist.
Okay. Are we playing the second, third short space combo we just mentioned?
We can. Is there anyone that you'd rather play at any of those positions than like Frazier? We would play at second because, right? That's the only position he can play.
Right.
Third, did you have anyone that you'd rather play than Miller?
Not really. Not unless
unless we're playing Gunner.
Yeah, unless we were playing Gunner. But how do you go against Owen Miller right now?
Right.
Right.
Unless you're not playing Adam Frazier. That's like we had Frazier second outfield for a while. Now it's just second base.
I know. No, listen, I'm with you there. I think at the very least it's Frazier and it's Miller, and then we can have conversations about shortstop. Like if you like Philadelphia, which you said you do, like Trey Turner at 5K, we can fit him in our lineup today.
Well, because we're going here, right? I assume going Conforto 3,100 in the outfield.
Yep.
What did we want to like? So before even going to I'm okay and obviously okay getting to Trey Turner at 5K. No problems getting to anything Philly. What else are we spending up on? You want to get Rizzo at first?
I do.
Okay. So 4,900, still 4,300. Like we still have like a lot of money left.
What do you have at catcher?
So catcher's an interesting topic. Now that we have 2 catchers in like multiple different spots. We have 2 catchers in San Fran. We have Rortvert. We have 2 catchers in Seattle. What do you want to do at catcher? We can spend up on Adley, like if we wanted to.
So, I plugged what we have in there plus Turner. That gives me 4K a play.
Okay.
If we did Adley, it's $3,600 for 2 outfielders. Obviously that takes away a little bit of money. I liked Seiya at 39. $3,300 in outfield after that, and then
it's pretty much like
getting
Haniger, right? That's like the only. What if we didn't do? Would you rather Rutschman or Trey Turner? If you can only pick one, you could say Rutschman. I'm not like offended by not playing Philly.
Probably no. Turner's probably the guy, right?
So then, what do we do at catcher? Let's toy around. Let's toy around with the lineup. Do we just punt it with Bailey or Sable?
I was just playing Sable at that.
Let's do that then. And then 4,800
with Trey Turner and Rizzo.
With Trey Turner and Rizzo, Sable, Suzuki. So the lineup as currently constructed: Logan Gilbert, Aaron Nola, Blake Sable, Anthony Rizzo, Adam Frazier, Owen Miller, Trey Turner, Michael Conforto, Seiya, $4,800 left over for a final outfielder.
What if we did? What was 3,100. I got so. Where's this? Murphy, maybe. Would you do Murphy at catcher? 2,400.
Yes, I would play Murphy or Bailey as punts. I think both those
Sure, because
guys.
if I put Morel in the outfield with Suzuki, so I have Gilbert, Nola, Murphy, Rizzo, Frazier, Miller, Turner, Conforto, Suzuki, Morel. It's $700 left over. We don't really have any stacks outside of the two Cubs, though, which I feel like we want.
We wanted more Giants.
Yeah, I feel like we want more Giants somewhere.
So then we can move off of Owen Miller or Adam Frazier and go Davis or Schmidt because you like Schmidt.
I do
at
like
third.
Schmidt. I like. So can we do Schmidt at third, Miller at second?
We can, and we will. That gives us just 300. So we don't have much of a connecting stack in the San Francisco game, but like that's fine.
Yeah. And again, it's a smaller slate, right? So I mean,
Yep.
it all plays. Again, we're spending up for Turner as a one-off. We have two Cubs. I like. I mean, Rizzo is the one-off I like as well, so that's fine. We're just playing some one-offs on a smaller slate, which works. We get some home runs. We're in there. So
agreed.
Gilbert, Nola, Murphy, Rizzo, Miller, Schmidt, Turner, Conforto, Suzuki, Morel is the lineup that we got going on there. James and I again will be in the Discord up until roster lock, which if you're on FanDuel 6:35, if you're on DraftKings, it's 7:05 here. That you can all pay attention to and get in that premium Discord. Again, if you're not yet a member of the FanStorm family, go to fanstorm.com/all-pro. Use promo code NFL50, MLB50 to save 50% off the first 6 months. That's $19.98 a month for the first 6 months, and we have a 7-day free trial included in all of that. So if you don't like it, 7 days, you can be out. But again, we get that premium Discord, and you get access to all of our content, not just MLB, but NBA, NHL, NFL, PGA, MMA, NASCAR, you name it, we cover it. And our NFL draft guide is coming out soon too. So if you subscribe now and save 50% off the first 6 months, you're going to get access to that draft guide included as well. So no better time than now to join the family. This deal is not going to last forever. So sign up and join with us tonight. James, any final words from people at home?
Nothing much. Interesting slate, 5 games. Don't have to go crazy, play small. I think there's some good edges that we gave out. San Francisco is going to be popular, but they're in a great spot. That game environment in general is a fantastic one. So,
Yep.
Go check out John's playbook over on fantasyalarm.com now too.
Yep.
Got an hour before lock, so make sure you guys get a good read in on John's playbook.
All right, everybody. Good luck, everybody.